Hi all and welcome to the Intel update, March 9th. It's fairly brief, by our standards anyway. Now obviously these are testing times, of which our show did warn about. Words of anger, hate, envy and contradiction are flying about everywhere in the alt media now, and the mainstream media, all to try and distract you and throw you off your path. Well, as for the alt media, this is a highly organised plot by the dark forces, backed and supported by high-end paedophile ring in league with the DNC and certain US senators who are terrified their criminality is about to be exposed. Also in play is the Rothschilds clan, who are losing control of everything and losing their own war with the Black Sun groups. Kim and I, as well as this group, are their main targets. Ask yourselves why. Ask yourselves, is it because we have done more to expose those criminals than most? But what is playing out now is the factions are disbanding or being broken up from 5+1, the one being us, down to 2+1. The other two are the Rothschilds clan, and with their draconian offspring and the Order of the Black Sun. But also remember that the Rothschilds clan was in every faction as well, so they win. Well, not this time. And it was pretty desperate of them to send out one of their lower family minions to try and discredit us. That failed as well. Some may have been swayed and abandoned ship, and we wish them well on their different path. A path paved with pot and loop-based holes, and shows exactly who they really are, or more importantly, where they are at. Some have sold us out, people will say, and I get that. But have they really not just sold themselves out? They were clearly not ready for the future, and we cannot carry stragglers, fence sitters and disloyal people with us anymore. As for me, I'm doing okay, and I thank many of you who have been supportive of me and Kim as a person, and also our shows. I will have my day. Not for revenge, but for them to realise their own shortcomings and failures. Time always tells, it has, and it did. Now, a lot of what you're seeing now in the public, mainstream media and the alt media is faction-based wars. Faction-based disclosures as well, as they are all now throwing each other under the bus. Now, the benefit for the alt media is you're getting some very high levels of disclosure now. But a word of caution. That does not mean they are working for the benefit of we the people. Take note of who they leave out of their disclosure, and it reveals who they operate for. There are many alt media groups, sadly, who are faction based. You're going to get lots of disclosure, but they're going to leave out who they're working for, which is not we the people. The only real group at the top level working for and by the people is Kim, the Trust and myself. I wish I was 100% wrong on that statement, but many of you are now seeing it for yourselves. So to repeat, most of which that passes off as news now is faction-based fighting and infighting. It will and has to play out. And we will be ready to make new again. We will bring orderly out of their chaos. The intel. The Ides of March may well turn out very painful for them as that date looms closer. It is their dues, not ours. You best listen closely to what she has to say to you, or face the consequences. Next item. Is it a coincidence that the virus started in China, dealing with the Asian faction, and the next major centre was Italy and perhaps the Jesuit faction? Then America gets in on the act and the two major centres were highlighted. Are they indicative as well? The two states of California and New York. Next item. The oil market crashing. What is happening is their free oil is running out. Now they have to pay. And that'll be great, people will say, but what if they have little or nothing left to pay with? Markets today were slashed 2,000 points in America, and ranging between 5 and 10% around the world. I think Australia lost 8, Britain was similar. China was lower, funny enough. Bitcoin has been slashed by 26 billion the last time I checked, and oil has crashed. The oil crashing to around $30 a barrel. Now, where did we hear that previously? So oil, when I wrote this morning, and that's what it ended as, finished just below $31 a barrel, which is now only $6 a barrel off the black market price, which is run by the Bushes, Obamas, Netanyahu, and the Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran. Yes, rogue American groups, Israel and Iran, are all working together on stolen oil deals. Funny that, isn't it? The mainstream media and the corrupt faction-based alt media will not tell you that, will they? Clearly not. So maybe the free or cheap oil has now dried up. Take note, the Saudis' oil, which is run by the Bush cartel, is now ramping up war with Russia over the oil, threatening to ramp up production and slash the oil prices to push Russia out of the market. This is like Russian roulette. Well, the world already has a glut of oil, as much less of it now is being used, putting a strain on holding facilities to store it. An overglut of oil leads to lower prices, and with futures tied to a much higher rate, pain begins for the oil giants. Monday saw oil conglomerates lose around 8% each of their stock price. Next item. This is about America and a small sample of food and beverage imports amongst 3 categories: animal-based, plant-based and beverage-based. And apart from a small downturn in 2008-2009, in line with the peak of the recession, which we have never come out of, despite so-called market experts, they know jack. Every year there's been a substantial increase of imports of these products based from 1999 through to the last results of 2017. The animal-based imports was 14.25 billion in 1999. By 2017, it was just over 34 billion. Plant-based imports was just over 22 billion in 1999. By 2017, it was 81.5 billion. Beverage-based imports 1999 was 6.75 billion. By 2017 it was 21.75 billion. A drastic increase in imports of animals, meat, fish, vegetables, dairy, fruit, nuts, coffee, tea, grains, vegetable oils, sweets and cocoa all across the board. Why? In a deliberate policy to make this country reliant on other countries for all main products and not become self-sufficient. Look at the farming industry, absolutely shredded, almost out of existence in this country now, with less or no ability to produce enough food. This makes this country vulnerable to a systematic takeover unless the people, or the so-called lead people, wake up. Whilst we don't like to create or deliver fear on this show, and forget the ridiculously overblown coronavirus bullshit, that is the sleight of hand tactic they always use to cover up what is really going on. A systematic takedown and exposure of these high-level criminals. And suddenly people have forgotten Epstein, forgotten Prince Andrew, forgotten Brexit, forgotten the increasing series of cabal-laden companies' CEOs being fired, not resigned, fired, including two or three more today from the Wells Fargo Bank. Forgotten that most of them were fired due to pedophilia. Forgotten that the Nazi vaccine program being implemented on the people of New York. Forgotten the real Russian collusion by Clintons, Obama and Mnuchin and the Uranium One deal, and the Iranian criminality done by lead Democrats and their children like Pelosi, Kerry and John Biden plus Romney. Forgotten that the DNC can't count their own votes. Forgotten that Pelosi said she would resign if impeachment didn't go through. And a whole heap of other things, like KPMG servers, Rothschilds, Clintons, and an alt-media clown group are involved in high-level abuse and trafficking of children. That is how they distract you. And the treasonous media and their bot-like script readers need to be held accountable by the people. Shame them in their own communities, pillory them on their websites, and let them know we the people will not tolerate their lies and treachery. It is both our duty and moral obligation to do so. There is an ongoing national crisis within our borders currently that has been quietly ongoing whilst people argued over collusions, impeachments and personality contests. Our food store shelves have been emptying. Walmart, the most obvious one. Personally, I started noticing it around 3 years ago. Others now seeing it for themselves. Other things noticed now is increases in bank glitches, as they call it, that renders banking cards inoperable. Restrictions now placed on how much you can withdraw. ATMs not working. Why? Little to no supply is left, is why. Even less so after the idiots managed to delete 1.87 trillion out of the stock market 7 to 10 days ago, which cannot be put back into the supply. The reasons behind the food shelves being empty or reduced is the money supply to pay for shipments, imports, are now dwindling rapidly. Recent videos posted aligned with on-ground confirms, stating that our ports on the east and west coast are practically empty of arriving containers. Past videos showed cargo ships in large numbers parking way offshore and awaiting payments before docking, which never arrived and some turned back. The real danger now as this country comes to a grinding halt, as most of our goods are imports with little or no funds to pay for said imports, supplies are and will grow low. Of course, they've brought in the coronavirus, which means now shops are emptying quicker now due to media-created panic. But what happens if supplies run out and cannot be replenished? Make no mistake, this country is now under full systematic attack on a financial level that has now become obvious of what this show and Kim has been telling you and those who would listen for at least the last 3 years. It is not a future event. It has happened and is increasing now. There is a real danger now of them starving us out due to ridiculous trade deals and a deliberate weakening of this country that relies heavily on imports. An imports imbalance means we are dependent on others. Others are told to restrict or stop us, and now our days of reckoning are upon us. It requires cool heads. It requires clever planning. It requires radical thinking to solve the issue once and for all. Proposals, ideas and plans are already in place if the right people do the right things. Should they not do that, we are potentially facing a Russian 1919-style hostile takeover of this country, which was stated as the Bolsheviks when it was actually the Zionists backed by the Black Sun and the Kali Ma worshippers. Don't believe me? Then fine. Carry on with normal activities and solutions because they all worked in the past, didn't they? Well, actually, no, they didn't. And our time is upon us. Radical thinking and radical solutions are now required. Tiptoeing softly only works for a while. Eventually, you have to exhibit real force and real actions, like now, before we become the next Argentina, Venezuela, Greece or Cyprus. We can carry on trying to integrate and dance about in their world, but their world is built entirely upon illusion. Or we can cut the damn cord on their world altogether and build and rebuild our world. A world in our image, not theirs. Our particular progress is continuing at a pace now, and why the frequency of attacks against us have risen. Our actions taken have put all clowns in a bad place now, which has led to their desperate attempts and measures. The details of our progress, if the public chaos is not enough, will be forthcoming in future shows when safe to do so. Hold on tight to your own progress. Do not let the external-based peoples throw you off course or balance. All is playing out nicely in real terms. They stop the trust, not because it's fake, like some jackasses make out, but because they can't control it. Eventually, we'll not need their input or infrastructure. We will build and deliver our own. I'm going to end the show with something I used to start with a long time ago. Take note of it. If you lead life in love and care, you will prevail. If you lead life in fear and anger, you will fail. Feel free for you to be the person you wish to be, not the person who conforms to what others want them to be. You are a multi-dimensional being operating simultaneously on many levels. You are not here to conform. You are not here to be stifled. You are not here to be enslaved, and you are not here to be abused or to compete with your friends, family, or neighbours. You are here to be the best you can be and do so as a crown of creation. Now go out with the confidence of who and what you are and excel in yourself, and in doing so, inspire others. This has been a short Intel update by THI and Thomas Williams. We'll be back sooner.